guns, and I'm going to be accused of being dramatic. We have a serious problem in this country, because this is common sense and reason. I saw some of you there yesterday. You didn't have guns and fake IDs. I don't know how else to explain it.
Clearly painting a narrative there, the Sheriff Chad Bianco, painting a narrative there. And I watched that and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they tried to do it again. And then the suspect's name dropped. And I quickly realized, oh, he's a giant Trump supporter. Oh, by the way, he follows me on Instagram. There's something that doesn't add up. And of course, it didn't. And I want to welcome to the show Them Miller, the man who, of course, was accused of showing up at Coachella to kill Donald Trump. That's actually not what happened, is it, Vem?
No, not at all. No.
So I want to talk to you about just what's taken place since then. But I want you to first clear the air on what he just accused you of. How he said you had multiple passports with different names, an unregistered vehicle, a fake license plate. Can you set the record straight on that?
Yeah, so, a lot of the things that he's referring to in terms of, he actually mentioned, I jotted down some notes here. He was talking about fake IDs. He actually said none of those are fake IDs. If I had fake passports or fake IDs, that's actually a crime. And at the end of all of this, I wasn't cited for any of the things that he mentioned. So in terms of law, there's a conjecture and emotion has to be left out of it, right? So the sheriff's job, the job of police officers is really two categories. It's either unlawful or it's lawful. It can't be anything else. That's what they got to decipher, right? And in this, if it's unlawful, it should appear on documents. It should appear on citations. If it's lawful, then it doesn't appear on documents and citations. And I have my citation right here. It says nothing about, fake IDs, counterfeit passports. It says nothing about, fake license plates. Therefore, if it didn't appear on that, then obviously what I was doing was not unlawful.
Right. And so you say, which, by the way, I completely believe you. It makes a whole lot of sense. You were telling them, hey, I showed up. I've got VIP credentials. I do have loaded weapons in the back of my car, which, by the way, them in California, you got to know, they're not going to like that. But you didn't have any ill intentions. You basically self-reported because you were trying to prove that you were not there to cause a problem, correct?
Yeah, not only to prove, when I ran for office in 2022 as a Republican candidate, I started forming relationships with a lot of police officers and, just being respectful. And at other Trump rallies where I've been to, I simply tell them most of these were obviously in Nevada, different culture. I didn't really realize the implications of that leading up to this event. I certainly understand now the difference between California and Nevada when it comes to gun rights. I just report to them. They usually say, just leave it in your car. And it's also important to distinguish what is a Trump rally and what is the parking lot to the Trump rally. So intentionally so, these parking lots are not close to the actual rally area, the perimeter. And the reason for that is one of the methods of assassination is car bombs, like a Timothy McVeigh style thing. So in my experiences, Trump rallies minimum seem to have a quarter of a mile distance. And then in the case of this particular rally, I eyed this while I was wheeled out in a police car. So I'm approximating at least half a mile, and I'm probably kind of downplaying that because it's impossible for me to tell. But whatever it is, it's a distance enough where these are two separate locations. So this idea that I was going into a Trump rally with guns is actually not true. I was going into a parking lot and then walking anywhere between a quarter of a mile to a mile to get to the actual rally perimeter.
Yeah. So you say, and I watched your video that you put out on social media, and you say that this arresting officer was verbally making statements that were very anti-Donald Trump. Do you think that this is why he treated you like this? Do you think that this is where this narrative came from to basically, defame you? Is that what we're thinking? Because I'm looking at the sheriff that's going up there and giving this press conference. And I do know that he does seem to be a Republican. He does seem to be a Trump supporter. And it just seems strange why they would be tarnishing your name and your reputation if you are also a Trump supporter. So tell me what your gut feeling is about this particular arresting officer. And then I want to get into what has happened since then.
So the arresting officer and the sheriff are two different individuals. The arresting officer, essentially, like has been reported, I overheard him saying derogatory remarks, and then that the completely different person. He was saying derogatory remarks about Trump,
Yeah, tell me what those were.
maggots, and stupid Trump people.
Okay, go ahead.
And I highly doubt he had his body cam on while he was saying that. And he said it to a female officer. And I'm sure once we FOIA all this stuff, we'll find out a little bit more. We've identified, I think, amongst my friends' legal team, and it's been amazing because there's been a lot of supporters that have come forward and offered to help. There's four potential different reasons I think that this occurred. One could be the officer that arrested me and his political beliefs and simply wanting to put a Trump fan into a torturous experience. The second thing is the sheriff has governor aspirations, and I think should this have actually been true, I mean, he would have won in a landslide, if he had stopped an actual Trump assassin. So I think there's a little bit of that. A lot of, being in politics, I know there's political consultants that come from a place of emotion and media spotlight. What's also important to report about this particular sheriff is that in 2020, he was seen kneeling at BLM riots after saying that he was part of the Oath Keepers. And this had happened before, right? So what I'm noticing about this particular sheriff is this issue of wishy-washy individuals that don't, kind of are going more with almost slaves to the media and doing what the media wants to be told, to what it wants to tell them to do. And I think that was potentially a part of it. It's very hard to know, what's inside somebody's mind. It's very hard to know what a conspiracy is and what the truth of it is without knowing facts. So that's why we came up with a list of 4 potential reasons why this is all occurring.
So you obtained representation. You have an attorney, and so have you filed a lawsuit?
It's in the process of being filed, but this attorney, definitely passionate, definitely freedom fighter, definitely a constitutionalist, very prominent. I won't say who it is until it is more formally announced. But what we're finding is, as this individual was doing a lot of research, there's something called patterns and practices, and what that is if a person's patterns and practices indicate corruption, right? Indicate that they don't care about the law, indicate that they're not operating within the law, but they're operating within what is the color of law, which is basically another way of saying doing criminal things, but using your position in order to conceal those criminal things. And what we found is very recently there was a $7.5 million judgment, or I believe it might have been a settlement, that I'm not sure on, against this particular sheriff and the department. Wow. There's been patterns and practices of his deputies and officers under him not being well trained. There's a long trail of corruption. The way this individual, who is a very astute attorney, describes some of the things that were being discovered by this individual. I'm trying to not give away the sex and keep it concealed for now of this individual. There's quite a lot. I mean, there's a lot. She's like, I can't believe this guy is actually not being prosecuted himself because his behavior, his corruption, the incompetence of his police department. There was insinuations of bribery in order to conceal bad behavior. I mean, there's just so much nasty stuff about this individual, apparently, that it just shows patterns and practices. And that would indicate, you have something called evidentiary thresholds for criminal behavior and civil misdemeanors. And, an astute sheriff would have evidence before they go around saying things like, this man showed up and verbally said, I want to X, Y, and Z. I don't even say it here because I don't want some, leftist, media operation catching me saying that sentence, right, which never would come out of my mouth. But yeah, there's a repeated issue of bad behavior here.
I mean, how pissed were you when you had to go? You're detained, you go through all of this, you're booked, you're finally released, and then you find out, I guess, that the whole world thinks that you were there to try to kill Donald Trump.
Pissed is not an emotion that I do because being a documentary filmmaker and investigative journalist, like those kind of high and low emotions have they're not part of me, I wouldn't say I was pissed. I would say that initially, when they took it seriously, I was actually happy that Donald Trump had actual adequate protection, because I remember early on, prior to the first assassination attempt, I've actually had individuals in my world that I've known that have had guns in their pockets at Trump rallies, right? So the security obviously was awful prior to the first assassination. So I was actually, happy that they're doing their job. It's when it seemed this is not about doing their job. It was really about operating under the color of law and using your power for criminal behavior that then I started becoming, I would say, pissed, or not pissed, not enraged, but more like the savage came out of me. And I know a lot about law. I know a lot about, because just simply by virtue of studying law and doing documentaries and tons of podcasts and interviewing people and just having walked certain blocks in my life, let's say, that's when all the deprivation of rights, language, operating on the color of law, all that stuff started coming out of my mouth. They denied me a phone call to my attorney. I never got a phone call. I was very vocal about that. The surveillance from the police department will reflect that. At one point, I got up and I told him that, dude, you're going to lose your badge. You're just cost your department millions of dollars. And and the other officers that were overhearing this, there is something called the blue wall of silence, which certainly was going on inside that police department. And I told them, guys, don't go down with this guy. These surveillance, cameras are going to expose that I'm not even getting my one phone call. And they're going to wonder why all of you guys teamed up against me to deprive me of that most basic right.
Yeah, you're right. So I want to ask you about one more thing here. This obviously was happening in California, but you say that Las Vegas Police Department showed up at your home this week?
Yeah. My home where my parents are staying, and they're elderly. They're 83 and 77 years old. My dad has a lot of health problems. He's had, unfortunately, 10 heart attacks, 3 strokes, high blood pressure, diabetes. It's a miracle that he's even alive. And they come on the property. They don't have a warrant. They're shining flashlights. They're in pretty much military style gear. They were the terrorism unit. And so my mom, who's familiar with a good friend of mine, Steve Sanson, who runs an organization called Veterans in Politics, and who's been very active in fighting corruption, remove judges, remove bad lawyers from their position, remove bad politicians from their position, arrives to the rescue, finds out that they don't have a warrant. Then they start threatening him, saying that you're obstructing justice, where there is no obstructing justice because you don't even have a warrant to be there. So Steve knows this. He lets it be known. Steve is also friends with Kevin McMahill, the sheriff of Clark County. He contacts Sheriff McMahill. Sheriff McMahill says that he is not in town. I think he might be on holiday. And at that point, Sheriff McMahill says, I have no knowledge of this. He's going to launch an investigation. I promise you that those police officers will no longer will no longer come back to this location, is what was said. And so that's pretty much the latest. Yeah.
Wow. So I do have to ask, this is obviously going to cost money. Do you have any sort of fundraising, website or anything up yet that people can go and help with your legal fees? Because when this ends, when this is all said and done, you need to be quite a bit richer from the Riverside County Sheriff's Office.
There is a way to donate. And it's funny, I haven't even thought about this thus far, because I've been really trying to correct the story of what happened.
Sure.
Internationally, I'm known as an assassin or potential assassin now. So, we do on our website, if you go to americahappens.com, there is a documentary called Bundy versus Deep State. It's the first documentary on the website. If you scroll down, there's actually a fundraising mechanism for that Bundy versus Deep State documentary. Well, the documentary was already made, and the documentary will explain why we had to expedite it and just get it out on a dime, basically. But that GoFundMe page, or Give Send Go, actually, I should say, whatever is donated there is going to be going towards this legal battle that is coming, and furthermore, it's going to be help us make more content. My partner Mindy Robinson, we've been known to release very compelling exposés and documentaries and do it on a dime. Mindy made her Route 91 documentary, which has over 100 million million views literally on her cell phone. So we've been known to do things on a dime, and this is what that money is going to go towards.
Wow. Well, I am so sorry for them tarnishing your name and your reputation. And it's just disgusting what they did to you. I hope that you get millions of dollars out of this sheriff's office. And I appreciate you joining me to set the record straight, Vem.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate you calling me on.
And keep me posted on it, okay?
I will for sure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Talk soon.
All right, talk soon.